Just hours away from AJ Lee returning to World Wrestling Entertainment, or at least we think. We think that is what is going to happen on SmackDown tonight. This is Paul Levesque McMahon we're talking about, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, so you never know. You could have, "This is my brutality," echo through the arena, and Rhea Ripley gets into the ring with CM Punk. You could have Bayley and her new wild, crazy character. Bayley shows up and gets into the ring with CM Punk. You could have Stephanie V. You could have Roxanne Perez turn face out of thin air. Out of nowhere, like an RKO, Roxanne Perez is now a face joining forces with CM Punk because behind the scenes, Roxanne is CM Punk and AJ Lee's fake daughter. Their TV daughter. Have Roxanne Perez. You never know. But I think it's safe to say that at this point, for Chicago, it is AJ Lee or bust on SmackDown tonight. And I say that because at this point, it's more than a tease. It has entered the realm of expectation. And it's always interesting because in Chicago, usually there's many, but at least one individual will have a giant sign or a banner or a flag that says this or we riot. Well, the this tonight is AJ Lee. And I understand that the community is a little divided. There's some that are no-selling AJ's return tonight. Completely no-selling it. AJ doesn't mean a lot to them. They don't see anything big with AJ Lee. And that's their prerogative. Much respect. That's how you feel. Some fans weren't even around or don't remember 10 to 15 years ago. So they don't know a lot about AJ Lee. They don't know all the titles that she's held, the GM role that she held, all the major storylines she was in the short 4.5 years that she was on that main roster. AJ Lee literally started a revolution. But to a lot of individuals, AJ Lee is not that big of a deal. To each their own. It's your prerogative. And then there's many others that have been waiting a long time to hear that music pop, light it up, to see that gal skip down and rock the wrestling ring at least once more. A lot of people, BC included. If you're new to the channel, BC has always been a huge supporter of AJ Lee. I feel her time got cut short way too soon. With all that she did in 4.5 years, could you imagine if she was still rocking the industry for 10 years now? Over 10 years she's been gone. Could you imagine if she was still with this thing the whole time? I don't even want to think about the titles and all that. Charlotte Flair would be looking up at AJ Lee's reigns. The storylines, the matchups. I think about all the females that came and gone within the last 10 years that AJ could have had matches with. Yeah, a lot of us have been waiting for this. So I hope that those that are no-selling AJ's return, I hope you're at least happy for people like BC that are going to be popping for sure when that music hits tonight. Or completely furious if "this is my brutality" ends up blasting through the loudspeaker. Or if Bayley comes out or Roxanne Perez, yeah, that's probably going to be deflating. But if it is AJ Lee tonight, hope you guys can be happy for those that have been waiting years for this. And for those that say this is just a pop, right? I think this is coming from Vince Russo, and a lot of people are running with this because I'm starting to see a lot of the same thing. This is all just for a pop. We're starting to use wrestling terminology in ways that it shouldn't be, and this is what I can't stand. If you're going to use wrestling terminology, know what it means and understand what you're talking about. This isn't a situation where somebody's coming in to create a moment and then they're going away for a couple of months, a la Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. AJ Lee's coming in for a specific reason, to work a program and even a match or matches with Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, her husband CM Punk. This is not just for a pop. And if you look at Monday Night Raw, the CM Punk Becky Lynch saga was the only thing worth talking about. It was a kick-ass segment. This is part of a program. This is what we've all been waiting for. BC's been asking Hunter Hearst Helmsley to do this for years. Storylines, what a concept. We finally get one. And some fans are like, this is just for a pop. I don't understand this. This is a pop. He's just going for a pop. Fuck you mean a pop? Yeah, hopefully it's a pop when she... What's the alternative? AJ Lee doesn't come... We've been waiting for it. A lot of us have been waiting for this. Since CM Punk got back and Becky's been talking all this trash with Seth Rollins. And now on TV, they're together. Yes, AJ Lee should be coming back. Yes, that's fun for a lot of us. Yes, it's a desperately needed pulse to this TV show and to this product. And your one thing is, it's just for a pop. I don't understand the excitement. It's a pop. So what do you want? What do you want? Roxanne Perez just turned face out of nowhere and joined forces with, is that Rhea Ripley and CM Punk? It's not going to get your ass to the edge of the seat and jaw drop. Are you going to scream, 76 times? The fuck you doing? What are you doing? Don't ruin it for everybody else. Trust me, I don't think there's a review that goes by that BC doesn't have to rip these shows apart 1,000 different ways. But sometimes you got to know when, hey, this is good. You heard my review on Monday. I couldn't have talked more positively about what Becky and CM Punk did. This is just for a pop. This is stupid. No, it's not. She's going to have a match. That's more than a pop. It's not just a moment. Oh, AJ Lee came back to pop a rating. No, she's going to have a match at the Palooza Wrestling. That's what we believe. And then probably more afterwards. She'll probably do something at Mania. That's not just a pop. We're just using cute little wrestling language now. And I like Vince Russo, by the way. And that's cool that people are listening and taking what he says, because I think we need more of that. But this is not one of those things that you... This is not one of those things you should probably be shouting off at the hilltop. It's just for a pop, guys. Don't pay no attention to SmackDown. It's just for a pop. Well, I'm hoping it's for a pop as well, but it's for a whole lot more. Because it's one of the only things that BC and many others are actually interested right now in WWE. This whole saga with Becky, Rollins, Punk, and hopefully tonight, AJ Lee. Now that's all the cold open teaser, opening monologue talk. What's coming up in this amped up for Friday, September 5 of the year 2025 is the expectations for AJ Lee. That's what we're going to talk about in this amped up, because I already see some fans getting a little carried away, right? Oh, AJ is going to bring in a 1718 rating. Guys, SmackDown just pulled a 1-1, lowest in show history, 1.1. Not AJ Lee, not Hulkamania. If he was to come from the great yonder and bring Ultimate Warrior and Savage with him, they're not popping 700,000 viewers by themselves on a show that pulls 1-1. Okay, actually, if you brought back Hogan, Warrior, and Savage, they're probably popping a 10.0. So I take that back. But to think that AJ Lee is bringing in 700,000 viewers on a show that brought a 1.1 last week, that's not happening. On top of that, guys, they're taking on opening night of football or opening weekend. Cowboys, Eagles last night. The Chiefs are opening up the weekend tonight. That's a massive... Do you know how many people are watching that? But so BC is going to give you what I truly feel WWE is going to be accepting, what they're going to be happy with, and the number that they would be blown away by. I will have that all, and you guys know I am a numbers guy. If you're new to the channel, BC loves numbers. Ratings, metrics, statistics, because I love to talk facts. And a big piece of talking factual information is having factual information. Metrics, ratings, statistics, that's how you can talk facts. Because you have the proof. What's working, what is not working. So I love numbers, man, and I'm going to tell you guys exactly what is a win and what is a loss for WWE tonight going against NFL. And instead of rolling up, curling up in a ball and hiding in the corner, they're going to punch back with a big show in Chicago. No pun intended, no Paul White. Well, no. Brock Lesnar, we're told, is going to be there. Jonathan Cena is supposedly there. Punk is there. A return of AJ Lee, we believe, is happening. They're going to punch back. So BC will give you the numbers. And this is coming off of a 1.1, the lowest in show history last week. So we're going to talk that. If we have time, I do want to talk the Matt Riddle situation. This is wild. He's really attacking CM Punk and AJ Lee. And he's being really passive-aggressive about it, right? Really roundabout. I say this with respect. Nothing against them, but then he just starts wailing away verbally on him. So what did he say about Punk and AJ? If we have time, I kind of want to discuss that story as well. I want to discuss Brock's contract. There's a report going around that BC is calling absolute BS on because it doesn't make sense. Because again, factually, it contradicts this new report as it pertains to Brock Lesnar and his contract. So hopefully I can get to that as well. And I say hopefully because again, the main story is going to be AJ Lee and the expectations tonight. Should she return on SmackDown? And the other big story, we're going to start right now. And there's no cold open teaser or opening monologue to this story. We're just going to rip the Band-Aid right off and talk about it. And that, of course, is AEW Dynamite's number this week. Their rating. I tell you guys all the time. I just said it again. I love to talk numbers, ratings, statistics. Tell you guys what is working, what is not working. If it's not working, fix it. If it's working, more of that, please. So we talk about ripping the Band-Aid off. AEW Dynamite this week brought in 472,000 viewers. That is one of their lowest in show history, and I believe their lowest for a non-preempted Dynamite. 472,000 viewers. So, if you want BC to do a little bit of Steiner math for you, that is down from 585,000 last week, which is a 19 to 20% drop. Nearly 20%. That is a fifth of your audience. You only had that fifth, right? A 500-some-odd-thousand viewership. You can't afford to lose a fifth. Because if that happens again, you just lost a fourth. You can't possibly go to 375, 350, 375, right? I mean, if people are overlooking TNA numbers, at what point is AEW going to be right next? They're going to be pulling up right side by side with TNA eventually. A 20% drop from last week's 585. They got a 0.11 in the demo, which is also down from the 0.13, which was drastically low the previous week. Now they went even lower to a 0.11. They went down 0.02. You can't do that again or you're at a 0.09. And they ranked number 7 on the night. 7! Not like at least 3, or hey, at least they made the top 5. No. News is beating them. Random hockey, I don't even know if it was NHL. A random hockey game beat them. The Challenge beat them. The Challenge without Johnny Bananas. Probably that Vanderpump, or those new episodes, I don't even know. Vanderpump is usually right there with them. Is that still around? Vanderpump probably beat him. What are we up to? 4? 2 or 3 other things beat him. I don't know what, a Sesame Street maybe. Does that run that late in prime time? The Smurfs? Old episodes of Saved by the Bell? I don't know. Number 7? 7th in the night? $472K. How does this happen, you ask? You shouldn't be asking. BC tells you. This is why we have the podcast. This is why we do the Amped Up show. So that nobody's shocked by this. We see all of this. We put all the facts together. We do our research. We do our due diligence. We put the facts in order. And we talk logically. This is not one of those channels where I disagree, Beasley. It's not about that. If I give you opinions and stuff, okay, we could talk disagreements and all these other outlooks on things. But what we try to do on this channel is to make pro wrestling great again. We can only do that if we're all honest and we talk about the solutions. There's nothing to disagree with when we're talking about what is literally not working. And we know that because people are going away in droves. Right? When SmackDown hits a 1.1, you don't blame Labor Day or that it was taped. Because why were they at a 1.3, 1.4 previous anyway? And last week at a 1.2, there was no Labor Day. It was just preempted. And when it wasn't preempted, they were at a 1.3 and a 1.4. Why were they so low? So that when you have a holiday or a preemption or a national championship game, sporting event, you can't afford it. Because you're already so low. So then when they go even lower, they still blame the championship game. Or they still blame the holiday or the preemption. Nobody wants to ask, why were you so low to begin with, so that when there was a holiday, you got walloped for a 10 count. Nobody wants to talk about that. We do on this channel. We sound off that alarm when they're at a 1.4, 1.5, 1.2, 1.3, and now at a 1.1 on the blue brand. So that people understand that's an issue. Doesn't matter, it's 2025, people are going to streaming or people are doing this or watching highlights. That's your job as a company to make sure they watch the event, not the highlights. And if they're going to streaming, then Raw would be booming right now. Raw has lost over half of what they started with. They started near a 6 million viewership globally. They're now at a 2.5 average. Domestically, a 1.2. But I thought everybody's streaming. How did so many people go away in droves in just 6 months, 8 months, I should say? Well, the show's not good. That's what we're trying to say. We're not being negative to be negative. We are simply being factual so that the companies can change for the better. And then the viewership, here's a crazy concept, goes up. So for AEW Dynamite, it's not rocket science. I've been telling you for weeks, there's no need to tune in the next week. There's no feeling that this is special. And you want to talk honesty? I've been saying for weeks that when I'm able to catch a Dynamite, because yes, very busy, especially middle of the week. I can't catch it every Wednesday night, but I always keep up with. But when I'm able to catch it on a Wednesday night, I always tell you guys, I notice something. It's less of a chore to get through than a Monday Night Raw or a SmackDown. That's huge praise for AEW. But then I also follow that up with, there's just no need to come back the next week. Nothing is really special. Nothing is telling me, oh, what a cliffhanger. Or, oh, this storyline I have to follow up on. There's no need to tune in the next week. There's nothing special. There's not that feeling that you are witnessing something. You're a part of something amazing. And that's what we're missing. And WWE hasn't been giving us that. So this is a great time these past couple of years for Tony Khan to deliver. This is the time, and Tony Khan is just dropping the ball. It's like he's not even listening. The AEW diehard fan base has been saying for months, this Mercedes Moné isn't it. BC's been defending it. Because I think people are also getting mixed up with gimmick and booking. The gimmick of Mercedes is great. She feels she's the best pro wrestler on the planet for females. BC thinks she is. So having her with a bunch of titles, no harm, no foul, I think that's a really good gimmick. And most of those titles, most fans have not even heard of the organizations, the bingo halls. So it's no harm, no foul. It's part of the gimmick. It's up to Tony Khan now to book her properly. Utilize that gimmick in the most epic of ways. And that's where it's failing. So a lot of people don't want to see Mercedes in there just having long, drawn-out matches for no reason when storyline is lacking. And then when the end of the match comes around, Mercedes is just rolling somebody up. This channel was founded upon two individuals, Bray Wyatt and Sasha Banks. A lot of my longtime subscribers know that, especially those that were here from the beginning. Those were my two that I put up on a pedestal, Bray Wyatt, Sasha Banks. For some reason, they just captivated me. But I told you guys that the main things for Mercedes Moné, there's three things that they're going to have to correct. Number one, they have to put her in storylines that their audience cares about. The AEW diehard tried and true fans, they need to care about Mercedes, not just walking around with 10 titles. Pretty cool gimmick. Now you have to utilize her correctly. That's number one. Number two, she can't be in every match as long and drawn out. Every match cannot be Mercedes just barely squeaking by after 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes. And number three, she has to stop winning with the roll-up. Because if you're calling her the best, or she's calling herself the best, and she has 10 titles, 9, 10, 12 titles, whatever she's up to, then why is she winning by a roll-up every time? Doesn't make sense. Why is she going 20 minutes with everybody and barely winning? Those were the three things. As a tried and true Sasha Banks Mercedes Moné supporter, I'm offering my constructive criticism. I am offering sound advice so that the diehard audience can be on board a little bit more with Mercedes and her booking. I'm trying to help. But it's like doing God's work half the time. Because these companies keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. All three things I'm trying to help with Tony Khan. And what does Tony Khan start his program off with? Tony Khan literally starts off Dynamite, or the first matchup anyway, with Mercedes in a long, nearly 20-minute match with Alex Windsor. Alex Windsor. 20 minutes. Alex Windsor is almost beating her 10 times. Mercedes has her submission on after that statement. She has it locked in, clenched in 3 separate times. And Windsor doesn't even tap out. Windsor's just like taking a nap. I mean, females should be tapped after 2 minutes in that. And she kept getting to the ropes. I mean, what happened to the statement? What happened to that submission? Alex Windsor is no-selling it? And at the very end, Mercedes wins the match. She squeaks by. How? With a roll-up. They're just doing the same thing with Mercedes every single match every week. But doesn't Tony Khan listen to his... I'm not talking the casuals. I'm talking the diehard AEW tried and true fan. This Mercedes whole booking is not working for them, the majority. And instead of listening and switching it up, this dude not only keeps doing the same shit with Mercedes, but opens the whole first half an hour with it. And then you wonder why you started with approximately, what was it, a 525-ish? 525 to 550 start, right? That's with your lead-in. I don't know if it's still Big Bang Theory. But their lead-in is now only 500 to 550 this week. But at least you started with that. How did you lose over 50,000 in the first 50 minutes? Things like this. If you're ever wondering, BC is starting class early. Professor BC is starting class. And going over all of these assignments. We're going over all of this in class. Nobody should be shocked at what is happening. Your main event is an 8-man schmaz. All of the wrestlers he has in that locker room. All the storylines you could be doing. And you put 8 dudes in there for a clusterfuck. And you expect what? You expect what? What are you expecting? To get back to 900,000 viewers with that amazing main event? Young Bucks and the Callis family? What are you guys wondering about? There was a graphic on Wednesday night. And I didn't even see what they ended up doing because I was just so turned off by it all. It didn't feel like you were at a wrestling show. It felt like you were like watching a tennis match or something, man. The ECW 2300 arena and how it used to be. And then you see those type of venues now, and it's just like, where's the energy? Where's the amplification? And so you have this small little crowd, and everybody was just sitting down, all patiently waiting for the next matchup to yell, "This is awesome," too. And they had a graphic where Adam Copeland and Christian Cage tonight, right? So Edge and Christian are going to come out later. And I couldn't help but think, wow, man, like, what happened? I know they're getting paid pretty good. Probably treated better, too, than WWE did. And that's huge. But as far as performance and what you're doing with your career, and like, you have this little venue, and at the time that they showed that no noise was being made, it was depressing. And they just showed that Copeland and Christian were going to, and I just couldn't help but think, like, wow, man, they went from WrestleManias and those stadium shows and the energy and like direction and like they're about to come out in front of, 61 people, slight exaggeration. And I didn't even see the segment. I'm hoping it came off good because I really want the best for Copeland and Christian. I want the best for Dynamite, for AEW, because I feel like that's the only thing that's truly going to give WWE a boot in the ass. And some of you guys may think I was taking it easy on AEW the past several months. I was easy on AEW. I was lenient with them. Not the case at all. As I look at the overall landscape of pro wrestling, I look at AEW's position in pro wrestling, and I see that they're still relatively a newer company that's going to have growing pains. Vince McMahon, his first 10-year reign of WWF, straight through WrestleMania 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. A dozen times he was on that line from good business and going out of business. That was over Vince McMahon's first decade. To my knowledge, still to this day, what are they, a 6 or 7-year-old company, AEW? So they're going to have those growing pains. But add on top of the fact that some individuals just wanted to trash AEW no matter what, even if they were producing something good. Maybe they'd spend a second or two on it, but they just wanted to trash it because they're just not a fan of it. So no, I was not going to do that. Even WWE, right? Most of it, unfortunately, is garbage these days, and that has to be corrected. But when something good does happen, even BC will send kudos to Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque McMahon, even though I'm not a big fan of Paul Levesque McMahon. When John Cena turned heel, I thought it was a pretty cool thing in the moment. Of course, we know how that ended up, and Levesque McMahon totally imploded that. Ruined it, never had a plan. That turned into hot garbage. But in the moment, I'm like, this could be cool. This is pretty cool. Good job, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Becky Lynch and CM Punk this past Monday. Probably not his idea, but Helmsley approved it. Thank you, Helmsley. I always give credit where it's due. And I talked about how good that segment was for minutes upon minutes, not just a quick moment. That's all I ask for, is more things that I can be positive about and talk about in a good way. We don't get enough. But anytime something really good happens, I throw Helmsley's name in there. Good job, everybody. Will I have a bunch of coffee with Helmsley? Probably not. But if he ever said, hey, BC, we need you to run one of these shows. We need you to get this thing back on track. Absolutely, I'll have a cup of coffee with Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and I'll tell him straight up what I'll need, which is from the jump, full creative control of the show I'll be working on. Your approval is fine, but let me do what I got to do. Stay out of my way. Trust in my process. And if you can't deliver that, then I get up from that coffee table and I walk. I don't care how much money they throw at me. But if it's for the betterment of the company, for the product, for the industry, of course I'm going to help out. There's some people, when it comes to AEW, that's just trash, trash, trash. That's not helping anybody. It's not helping the company, but it's not helping the industry. A better AEW is a better pro wrestling world. And it's one of the only things right now that can boot WWE in the ass to force them to be better. So if you're a pro wrestling fan, you should be hoping for the success of All Elite Wrestling. So no, I was never lenient on them. I was, ironically, being the only one fair. But I've always had my criticisms, of course, of AEW and Dynamite. But I've always tried to find a constructive way to present those criticisms, especially because, as a lot of you longtime subscribers know, there's a lot of individuals within the walls of AEW that watch this channel. And if you've been watching this channel long enough, you know exactly who those individuals are. So you hope that this is kind of getting to Tony Khan in a roundabout way, and that he understands that this is the most honest, constructive criticism you're going to get. Take it under consideration. We're trying to help. How to liven up the shows. Some simplistic stories that you can implement to make the television show more watchable. The character development that you could be utilizing. Starting the show and ending the show in a much more climactic way. Bring back the old school cliffhangers. All these little things are not so little, and when you put all these little puzzle pieces together, you will eventually get the whole puzzle presented in front of you. Completed. Right now, none of these companies have anywhere near a completed puzzle. You get a bunch of pieces here, here, here. There's all these missing puzzle pieces, and these companies, these promoters don't even know where the missing pieces are. Forget putting them where they belong. They don't even know where they misplaced the pieces. SmackDown's at a 1-1 lowest in show history. Dynamite follows that up with their lowest Dynamite in history. I hope you're not blaming Labor Day for this. Is everybody getting lost camping? If they didn't make it out, a bear ate them? $472. And even my girl, Mercedes Monet, who I praise always. Even her, I'm watching and I'm going, what is she doing? Struggling to beat Alex Windsor. What is she doing? Winning again by a roll-up. You're supposed to be the best with all these titles. You can't get by anybody until the last second with a roll-up these days. Of course fans are not going to get behind that. You're struggling. Tony Khan, get it through your fucking dome piece. You're struggling. This is not a little pet project where you're playing with action figures. And now you're a grown-up with dad's money and you can do it now with real-life humans. No. You have a real shot and real potential to be actual competition with WWE one day. You already called yourself a challenger brand. But once you pulled All Out to 3 p.m. instead of going head-to-head with WrestlePalooza, you no longer are a challenger brand. You're an appetizer brand. You're the salad before the steak. You're an appetizer. You're the show that goes on before the really big main event show. It's unfortunate, but that's what you did when you moved All Out. But if you're in your mind, in your heart, you truly believe you're a challenger brand, you're a competitor to WWE, start the process to be such. You have real potential to be one day. But you gotta listen. You can't be stubborn. You can't be stupid. Listen to your diehard fan base. That's where you start. Then you branch out to get the casuals that were once with you that have left. Because there's hundreds of thousands over the past year that said, check you, deuces, Zeus's, peace. Check you, I'm out. Your average used to be 950. You're at 472. So how do you get 500,000 viewers back? Start with giving your diehard tried and true what they need so that you don't lose any more of them. Listen. Because your shit is not good right now. It's not. $472,000. And if you add Max in, a lot of people are probably, what about Max, BC? I always tell you guys, the closest number that we get from Max is always around 40,000 more than the number. So if AEW is pulling 600 some odd on a Dynamite, add 40,000. I'm not giving you 50. There's no evidence. But even if you wanted to add 50, okay, what, 650, 675 is your top? So with 472, what do you think I'm going to give you for Max? I'm not giving you more than 25,000 viewers. If it's usually 40 for 600 plus, 472 wouldn't be 40 still. Max would have given you about 25,000. I'm being generous, which would put them at 497. So they still didn't break 500,000. But what do you want me to do? Give you 35, 40,000 Max viewers? Okay, so now you're at 507, 512? Is that number still representable to you? Is that still respectful? At least you're over 500,000 now. If you want me to be generous and give you 40,000 Max viewers. I don't even think it's 25. I'm being generous with 25, which would put them at 497. Doesn't listen, keeps doing the same shit. AEW has potential, and instead, it is about to go into the graveyard with TNA. And who knows what Vince McMahon will do with TNA, because that's what's going to happen, just so you know. It's already being... Vince McMahon has his own company now, an entertainment company that's going to house many different facets. Wrestling, probably some MMA, probably some Hollywood, some acting. It's a company that is going to be multi-versatile in the entertainment world. And if you don't think that this partnership with TNA is just the first stepping stone to have Vince purchase TNA when the time is right, because that's what they're waiting on. This whole lawsuit to kind of fade away, get all of that under them. And then there'll be the big announcement. Vince McMahon's purchasing TNA. But right now, what is TNA? How many times throughout the year is the wrestling world at large talking about anything TNA is doing? After all these years. It's hard to have a successful wrestling promotion. It's hard. AEW was the first company to come around in a long time that has a chance to do something. And the guy at the top is squandering it, and nobody knows why. I'd hate to believe he's too stupid to see this. So it has to hinder on stubbornness. Or is it a mixture of the two? Stubbornness and stupidity. Helmsley has dropped the ball 100 different ways. Every single game. Every time he touches the ball, he drops the ball. This is the time for Tony Khan to do something. Pick up the ball. Instead, Tony kicks it. Helmsley drops the ball. All Tony Khan has to do is pick it up and run into their end zone. Score. Instead, Tony's like, oh, the ball dropped. He starts kicking it like it's soccer. He dropped the... $472. That's it. I can keep running in circles with this conversation. We're at the point where if they start getting 600,000, if they come anywhere close to their new average, which is around 600, that's going to be looked at as a victory now for AEW. How sad is that? What 950 used to be. I remember when there was a time where 1.2 they were getting for a few weeks and months. 1.2. Remember that 1.2? Then they could not get past 950 for months. And now we're just going, can they ever get back to 600? And to think, there's people that'll go, oh, pro wrestling's amazing. AEW's good, man. Basically, you're just not looking at it properly. 472! What do you mean? If it's good, you're going to have people flock to it. They won't be running from it. If SmackDown is good every week, you're not coming up with a 1-1. I don't care about the holiday, the preemption, nothing. Championship games. If AEW is good on a random Wednesday night, you're pulling more than 472. It's frustrating. Let's move on. Let's talk, do we want to talk expectations with AJ Lee? And if I have time, I'll go over the Brock story and Matt Riddle. How's that sound? AJ Lee is what we'll talk about. AJ Lee is returning tonight. We believe by the time, that went so long, the AEW talk. Just a lot of frustration because I see the potential in that company and they just squander it. And every time I watch, it just doesn't feel special. More watchable than Raw and SmackDown, but that doesn't say much. So when I cover AEW, it's like pulling teeth for me to even say it's a good show. Potential. But they squander it. And every Wednesday, it doesn't feel like I have to watch any part of AEW. That's a problem. So anyway, that conversation took a while. So AJ Lee, we'll talk this. And the coffee's flowing, BC's rocking. This might get out to you guys right before SmackDown. Who knows? This will come out at 7 p.m. But AJ Lee, we expect to show up tonight on SmackDown as part of this big storyline with Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, CM Punk. It's the only thing they can do. You can't have Rhea Ripley show up. You can't have Bayley and her new character, Stephanie V, Roxanne Perez. Liv Morgan can't return tonight. Literally, this has all been set up the way Becky is treating the husband of AJ Lee. And then Punk saying, where's SmackDown Friday? And Pierce saying, home sweet home Chicago. And a smile comes to Punk's face. After he's been on tour for weeks, he gets to go home to see his wife, AJ Lee, who just happens to be getting smacked around by Becky Lynch. Well, who's going to stand up for CM Punk with a woman that's smacking him in the face? Well, that would be AJ Lee. It's the only possibility. Chicago always says this or we riot. There's always that big banner in the crowd. I love it. Well, this tonight is going to be AJ Lee. AJ Lee or they riot. Not literally. They're not really going to riot if a wrestler doesn't show up, but huge disappointment. Because it's not a tease anymore. It's an expectation, and it's justified. It's a justified expectation. So now what I want to talk about is what to expect, right? We've been talking a lot about numbers in this amped up show. So what to expect tonight? SmackDown just came off their lowest number, 1.1 this week. The week before, when it was not even Labor Day, 1.2. Tape shows, you say, BC. It was taped, though. Okay? 1.4 was their average beforehand. If they were lucky, they'd get a 1.5. But their average is around 1.4. So it's already masterfully low. So when you have a tape show and people read the spoilers or hear them and say, oh, nothing I need to tune in for. That's not good. So you go to a 1.2. And then if you have a holiday come in, and it's not even the actual day, it's just the weekend, right? It's a Friday night. The holiday isn't until Monday. But okay, let's use that as an excuse. Now you fell to 1-1. But Sami Zayn was going to win the title. Wouldn't that bring asses to seats? Wouldn't that rise the viewership or at least keep it steady with a 1-2? Sami Zayn. No, you know why? Because people don't care about a Home Depot employee winning the United States Championship. Or how about the fact that this is the 5th champion this year for the U.S. title? Now, mind you, we're only about 8, 9 months. We just started September. So 8 full months into the year. 8. And you've had 5 different U.S. champions. Shinsuke Nakamura, LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Samuel Zayn. So if the title doesn't seem prestigious because it's being passed around like herpes, and if the champions don't seem prestigious because champions are a dime a dozen, it's just it's tag, you're it. Tag, you're the champ. Tag, you're the title holder. It's like nobody wants the title. And I don't blame them. It seems in this company, when you get a championship, your booking becomes even worse than what it was. For a lot of these individuals, when you get titles, it's a one-way ticket to catering. Ask the New Day. So you have your 1.1, and they break the news. They're bringing in everybody. We're hearing Brock Lesnar could be on the show tonight. Jonathan Cena, CM Punk, AJ Lee returning tonight is the big tease. So what can WWE expect? What can the fan expect numbers-wise? So you go from a 1-1. You have all these people coming in. You're going against the NFL. Opening weekend. This is one of the opening games. Last night, the very first, Eagles versus Cowboys. Tonight is the Chiefs. And all the Swifties will be watching. I don't know if the Swifties will be watching AJ. Maybe, right? I think that's a good I think a lot of Swifties would be AJ Lee fans. But they're probably going to be watching the Chiefs. So here is what he... And I think this is such a good conversation because everybody's all over the place with the numbers, right? Some people are saying, oh, she's not going to move the needle at all. Others are saying, oh, it's going to be so big, she's going to pull a 1.7 or 1.8, maybe even a 1.9. BC, do you think they'll pull a 2.0 with AJ's return? Simmer down. Absolutely not. They're not just going to go from a 1.1 to a 2. They're not getting 900,000 viewers when they only had 1.1 last week. So no. And because of football, it's going to be baby steps, even with AJ Lee. So here's what I truly believe. I believe that if WWE scores a 1.4, this is going to be looked at as a success for WWE. A 1.4. Back to their average. Back to their average. 1.4. To get that 1.1 last week, the week before to have a 1.2. You don't want this to be a drastic trend. You definitely want to stop it from going backwards. The good news is I do, even against football. So the trajectory has been downward. And you have football. Massive game tonight. But there's enough going on this show. You're going to stop the bleeding for sure. You're going to stop the downward trajectory. They're not even going to stay steady. I absolutely believe they're going up. And even though it doesn't seem like that much, a 1.4 from a 1.1, that's massive. You're getting back onto a track where you can start the process to go forward. I know it's not the answer you want to hear or what you want me to say, 1.8, 1.9, or it's a fail. That's not how numbers work, though, guys. So we have to be realistic. And again, it's not even advertised. A lot of people don't even think it's going to be AJ Lee. A lot of people truly believe it's Rhea Ripley tonight or like Bayley. So you have to take under the consideration, right? A lot of people don't know if Brock Lesnar is truly going to be there. It could be advertisers are going to go, yeah, but is he really going to be there? John Cena's been advertised in the past recently and he didn't show up. People were pissed off about that. So you got to keep in mind, a lot of this isn't even advertised. A 1.4, I truly believe WWE will be okay with that. They'll look at that as a success. And numbers guys like BC, I will be like, yeah, take that, run, don't look back like you just robbed the bank. Take it. Take the 1.4. If you get a 1.5, yes, that's a Daniel, but that is true success. If you go from a 1.1 and you hit a 1.5 against NFL football, I don't see that happening. That is a huge 400,000 viewer jump. I don't see it happening. But that's a success. If you can pull a 1.5 after this tour, after hitting your lowest viewership ever and going against the Chiefs in the NFL opening weekend. Yeah, a 1.5. Yeah, that's success. But again, don't even strive for that. Just try to hit that 1.4 if you can. A 1.3 is the most likely scenario. 1.3 is the most likely scenario. Judging by what they had the last 2 weeks, 1.2, then they went to a 1.1. You're back stateside. You're back live. Chicago should be hot. You should have 2 out of the big 3, if not all 3, but you should have Cena and Brock. Definitely having Punk. So even if you have just Cena and Brock, and if you do get the AJ Lee return, 1-3 is there's no reason they should be under a 1-3. If they are under a 1.4, it's a fail. But at least a 1-3, you're not going to lose sleep over. 1-3 is possible. In other words, I wouldn't be shocked. It's not exactly what you're hoping for, but everything I just mentioned that they're going against, at least you win up a couple 100,000 viewers, right? Hopefully that is the start of something going forward. But I still look at 1-3 as a fail. You're just not going to lose sleep over it. It's the most possible outcome. 1-4 is going to be good for WWE. And they'll look at that as back on track, even success in many ways. A 1-5, they're going to be downright giddy. They're going to be holding a party in Stamford, Connecticut. Streamers, balloons, confetti, party hats. If they can pull a 1-5. So that's the expectations, guys. That's the expectations that you can look for. Just to kind of simmer down some of the talk. Some people are talking 1, 7, 8, 9, even a 2-point. That's not going to happen, man. Or if it did, wow, man. AJ Lee has a lot more value than even BC thought of. It's been over 10 years. And pro wrestling is hurting right now. So AJ Lee, you can't expect this one person, one little AJ Lee, to bring in 500,000 viewers by herself. But again, the NFL, the opening weekend, and it happens to be the Chiefs. That is a sucky position to be in. But I am so happy WWE didn't curl up in a ball, hide in the corner. They're going to punch back. They know they have to with the Palooza of wrestling on the horizon. They know they have to bring it. So they're bringing everybody in, and they're going to take on the NFL tonight. I respect that. I respect when you just go head-to-head competition. You're not going to just hide, curl up in a corner. Tony Khan just did that, man. He took his whole show, even though they were first. They had the pay-per-view. They had the venue. They told everybody, hey, it's going to be a primetime party. And now it's in the daytime. A lot of people got to make different arrangements because they didn't want to go head-to-head because they were going to get beat. It's okay to get beat in business, man. But if you do it correctly, you're going to be the better one in the long run. You take the beating now, but you end up winning the war because you put on the better show. You had the bigger moments and surprises. You were what was being talked about when it was all said and done. More people watch the other people, the other brand, the other company. They watch WWE, but it's you they're talking about because X, Y, and Z happened. And when you do that enough, eventually the bully backs off. You're no longer backing up and throwing your lunch money at him and going, all right. No. You want the lunch money, you're going to have to whoop that ass. And I'm going to keep making it more difficult for you, more difficult until you finally back off. But Tony Khan totally curled up in a ball and he packed up his show and he took it to 3 p.m. WWE is going to try to fight back tonight. It's not like they can pack up and move to a different time slot anyway. But we've seen many times in the past with Helmsley and with Vince, many times where they curled up, they phoned it in because they were like, it's no use. It's this, that, or the other thing. We're not going to get anywhere. And they phoned in these shows because they didn't want to compete. I hated when Vince did that. Helmsley's done it a couple times already. But now they're like, no, we're going with it, man. We're going. So again, 1-3, the most likely scenario. 1-4 is good for them, and they're probably going to look at it as success. 1-5 is going to be they're going to throw a party in Stamford, Connecticut at the headquarters. 1-5, if they can pull that. But I do believe that if they pull under a 1-4, that includes 1-3. I do still look at that as a fail. But you got the NFL, man, and you're coming off of a 1-1. I mean, it's a shitty situation to be in anyway. This already went really long, but you know what? I kind of want to talk about it. Let's do it real quick. These two stories. Brock Lesnar. There's a story going around that Brock has a new contract with WWE leading into SummerSlam. The months leading into SummerSlam, he was no longer under contract with WWE, and this is a new contract. There's just one problem with that. It's bullshit. He was on their roster the entire time. Now, if there was a restructuring of the contract, I can see that. But he was not under contract because he was on their roster page. And that's the external public page. That's the legal page. Forget some internal roster. I'm talking about an external public legal page. Brock Lesnar was right there. So, of course, he was under contract with WWE. So that's bullshit. And another story, Matt Riddle, he's really going hard on CM Punk and AJ Lee. For some reason, he no-showed an event. It was a charity event, I believe in the UK, but somewhere outside the US. He had his side of the story, didn't know it was a charity event until the week of, said that there was travel arrangements that he agreed to and they agreed to, but then kind of went back on, and then complained that he was in a middle seat with no food, and then he was going to have to get there on like Thursday when the show wasn't until like Sunday. So he's going to have to be there a couple of days, apparently. But the organization is saying that, well, they had meet and greets and all these things planned. So it's the tale of two tapes. Riddle is telling an entirely different side. This organization is telling a different side. But for some reason, Matt Riddle is going to CM Punk and AJ Lee throughout this conversation. And this is two separate interviews, one of them with TMZ. And he's calling CM Punk, he's calling him a bitch. He's saying that he can beat him in a bare knuckle fight. He's calling him fake and a phony, and he just doesn't care for CM Punk. That's a sentiment with a lot of wrestlers. That's just the reality. A lot of wrestlers just don't like Punk. They think he's phony. And there is some truth to that. We've talked about it on this channel. I'm digging CM Punk's work since he's been back. I think CM Punk is one of the only pulses on an otherwise lifeless show, Raw or SmackDown. But it's clear that Punk has some type of there's these insecurities. There's these self-esteem issues, and there's almost like an imposter syndrome where he truly wants to be like a John Cena during that time, or The Rock. And you see that, and because he wants to be this different person, it comes off as phony. It doesn't come off as real or believable, or that's who he truly is. So when he's working with a lot of people backstage, they're seeing this on full display firsthand. They're working with him. It's like any coworker you have. You can probably see through the BS because you see your coworker enough. And you could just tell this is not real. There's probably been 100 different wrestlers that have called CM Punk phony or fake over the years. So there's got to be something to it, obviously. And BC has told you, I've seen it. 1,000 different times I've seen it. But some psychology behind it. There's actually reasons as to why. So Matt Riddle is one of those people that sees that he's fake. And I will say this, it doesn't help how he is with Hunter Hearst Helmsley right now. Because anybody that knows Punk knows. Punk and Helmsley, it's fire and ice. They just don't mix. It's not peanut butter and jelly. It's not macaroni and cheese. This is like one of them is mayonnaise and the other is ketchup. They're not going to go together. But CM Punk is trying to play nice. So he's talking about how wonderful Helmsley is now and how great their relationship is. And you want to say, well, maybe it is. But no. Helmsley's still the same douche, and Punk still carries a lot of that douchery. Now they're just trying to play nice, though, and that's a good thing. So that's why BC doesn't harp on this too much. BC, can you believe what CM Punk said about Helmsley? This is so bull, man. Remember how we used to feel about him? You're telling me that changed like that? Of course it didn't. But what's the alternative? Punk isn't just going to trash Helmsley all the time. Whether he likes it or not, that's his boss now. But yeah, of course it's phony. I'm pretty sure Punk can't look in the mirror and keep a straight face telling himself that Helmsley is such a good dude now. And he loves working for Helmsley. So sometimes you got to be fake in that scenario, right? That's his boss. You're trying to play nice and you already have this stigma, this reputation of being the problem child. So Matt Riddle is jumping in, and he's he's really coming hard onto CM Punk, but also AJ Lee, and he's talking about how AJ Lee was known to be sleeping around back in the day. When she was with WWE, she got around. And he's like, hey, I got no problem with that. He's like, to be honest, I'm the same way. He's like, I was a player too, and I was always sleeping around the locker room. And I'm like, where is this going? This started talking about a charity event that he skipped, no-showed, and somehow it went to bashing CM Punk and bashing his wife AJ Lee and talking about how she got around. Now, I don't know the truth behind that, nor do I really care, especially on a big night for AJ Lee, for Matt Riddle to be bringing up this nonsense, man. But, I think a lot of people do equate that statement to her character on screen. And if you guys remember, she was playing that crazy character that was all over the place romantically. She'd be kissing Dolph Ziggler one day, then Daniel Bryan, then CM Punk, then John Cena, then Kane. So storyline, she was making her way around the locker room. So Matt Riddle's kind of saying, yeah, that was because of what they already knew about her. Ah, man, it's something Vince would do. But I don't want to believe that's the case. Wasn't AJ with Jay Lethal? Was it AJ? I know somebody was with, I think that was AJ Lee was with Jay Lethal. One of BC's favorites, by the way. I think it was AJ. That's how long it's been since AJ's been in the wrestling news. But I think she was with him and then CM Punk. And who knows who between. But Matt Riddle seems to think it's the locker room. And she got around. But anyway, that's a big story. That's why it had to be discussed. Because I have a feeling that Matt Riddle will kind of keep up on it. And eventually, CM Punk is probably going to have to retort because that is his wife. Or maybe AJ tries to shut up Matt Riddle. But, yeah, Matt Riddle is basically saying what a lot of the wrestlers were already thinking. But listen, CM Punk is doing all the right things now. Whether it's fake or not, he's not a problem. He's not fighting with the boss. He's going on tours. He's working more dates than he probably needs to. AJ's back. I mean, listen, I'm enjoying Punk's work. And so I'm riding this out, man. Because Punk needs a better ending than what the first go-around in WWE gave him. And a better ending than what happened in AEW. That just did not work out at all. CM Punk in AEW was, it's mayonnaise and ketchup. If AEW is the mayonnaise and they're already on the burger, well, CM Punk came along as ketchup and he's like, I want on the burger. The burger's like, listen, you can't both. This burger is not going to have mayonnaise and ketchup. It just didn't work out. So he comes back to WWE, and I think, man, even if you're not a CM Punk fan, ain't you kind of like, man, you want this to be a lot better. You want him to leave pro wrestling better than the way it ended the first time in AEW and in WWE. Because that bitterness, I couldn't stand that with CM Punk. He was bitter. He was trashing fans. He was trashing the industry. I could not stand that CM Punk. That's where the real phoniness came from. And then he thought he could be Mr. MMA. And BC was always like, dude, he was never the most athletic. He was never a real fighter. Like, what is he doing? But Matt Riddle, I think, taking it a little too far going to AJ. If you got the beef with CM Punk, if you think you could beat him in a fight, whatever. Punk has much bigger things going on right now than to probably have a fight with Matt Riddle. But once you start going to AJ Lee, is that kind of crossing the bounds a little bit, especially on such a big weekend for AJ Lee? Big week. But Matt Riddle, maybe he's trying to set himself up for an angle. Who knows, man? That's what I got for you guys, man. Amped up the 5th of September of the year 2025. I told you, maybe I didn't tell you. There was so much going on, I probably should have told you it was going to be a Pack Jack Stack show. But you done found out that it's a Pack Jack Stack show. I'm going to get a lot more coffee. I got a lot to do before SmackDown hits the airwaves, but they're in Chicago. There's a good chance that John Cena, Brock Lesnar will be in the arena on the show. CM Punk definitely will. AJ Lee? Is it AJ Lee? Or, this is my brutality! Oh, don't piece through a brick wall if that's the case, man. Hell hath no fury for Hunter Hearst Helmsley. You thought I ripped the show apart beforehand. You thought in the past I ripped this show. If this is not AJ Lee, salute, unit. Check you.